All right, we're returning with Howard Houchen. Howard, you wrote this article. First of all, how did you get picked up or in contact with American Thinker? Have you written articles before with them?
No, this is my first article with American Thinker. I've written. I'm not going to say that I'm a prolific writer, and believe me, I'm probably not even average. But I do have a lot of articles published, and generally it's usually, I've had some with WorldNet Daily, Canada Free Press, American Daily Review. I'm trying to think of some others, but anyway, I've written quite a bit, and I came up with this, and I to me this was just a little more important than some of the other ones, although I'm not denigrating them, saying they weren't important. But to me, this one really hit home. It was really important, so I just wrote it out, and I submitted it to the editor of American Thinker, who has 3 advanced degrees from Harvard University. The guy is brilliant. But anyway, needless to say, I went through about 2 different revisions and editing, because it had been many years since I had written a scholarly piece, Mr. Huff. And so it was great. To get back into that, which I really needed to do, but they seemed to think that it was a good idea, and were very happy to publish this piece for American Thinker.
Okay, well, tell us exactly the gist of the article.
I'm going to just, and I don't want to take a lot of time, but I do want to give a background. And Eddie, you and I share a similar type of background. You were raised overseas during your early years. I believe you were in Europe. Is that
right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I was kind of like that too. We moved. I was very young to the third world nations, Southeast Asia, and this was kind of at the height of the Cold War. And coming around 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, and living in these countries overseas and traveling abroad, I was a Cold War nut, Eddie. I'm not going to lie to you. Mm-hmm. I mean, everything dealing with that evil communist threat. That my view, towards our way of life, and just what I thought it was to be, America, and what we truly believed in. Boy, I was alert to anything communist or communist propaganda, and eventually, when I went to college, I even studied my degree is actually political science with a minor in Soviet studies. Because, mind you, there was a very real threat to the Soviet Union during those days. So I was your consummate, good American, and got to know a little bit about the political system, the political history of the Soviet Union from the Bolshevik Revolution, on. And when, as time progresses and you see similarities and things, but when something just jumps out at you, you say, "Whoa, wait a minute! I really need to take a look at this." And the bottom line is that the political system of the Soviet Union was kind of an evolution, and a Politburo actually didn't come about until 1919. And there was something that jumped out at me that I had to think back in this old dusty mind, and I thought something. I remember something here, so I went back and researched through some of my old. Contemporary Soviet political books, and I found it. And, the Central Committee elected a Politburo in 1919. And what this Politburo was just it was a select committee, if you will. It was just at that time, it was 5 individuals. It grew to 12 members. But the reason for this Politburo, according to the Communist Party itself and the Central Committee, was they needed someone that could decide the questions of the day that were just too urgent to await Central Committee deliberation. In other words, the Central Committee process was just a little too cumbersome to deal with pressing issues. So I think of that, and I look back, and I think, wait a minute, what's this, this super Congress here is this select committee that's appointed by, the party heads.
You're talking about the Debt Commission.
Yeah, the Debt Commission.
Right.
The Super Congress, or the Debt Committee. Excuse me. It's actually called the Joint Select Committee on Deficit Reduction.
Right.
Is the actual name of it.
Mm-hmm.
And whoa, lo and behold, I thought, this is kind of how a Politburo started. Now, look, I understand that we're dealing with we're dealing with a two-party system here in America, as opposed to the one-party communist rule in the Soviet Union. But the bottom line to it is that this is how things get started. When you step away from the intent and purpose of our founding and how Congress and how the legislative process works. Now, it's not like this is brand new, because this was at the BRAC Commission, the Base Realignment and Reclosure closure was similar to this. But the problem is that it was very, very specific. Well, the argument may come forward that, well, this is specific as well. This committee is only going to deal with deficit reduction. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but look at what we have allowed to occur based on the Commerce Clause. They use the Commerce Clause for everything, Eddie. They're using it to push this, unconstitutional, un-American healthcare,
right, the
nationalized healthcare system down our throat based on this Commerce Clause. Well, I read the bill. I read the act, and it starts at about page 57. It goes to probably around page 80. And I'm telling you, anything and everything can be deemed a part of deficit reduction. There is nothing that limits the power of this Joint Select Committee on Deficit Reduction. And you and I both know, and most everyone out there that pays attention knows, that if it is not specifically prohibited in a bill, guess what? It will occur. This committee could potentially have almost unlimited power. Now, they still have to bring it forward. I understand all these arguments. But the problem is that you're stepping away from the standard of the American process. Yeah, it stinks. It's very inefficient. But guess what? There's supposed to be friction there. There's supposed to be friction in our legislative process. It's not supposed to originate and go through like this without even limiting debate on the topic. You got to be kidding me.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, this really rings and has the earmarks of what the Communist Party and the Soviet Union did in 1919 by creating the Politburo.
Right. I noticed, because I was looking through here, and I noticed you mentioned several entities of the administration that have been formed. You've got the EPA, Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Health and Human Services, and so forth. These are all different departments, cabinet positions, but they are actually wielding power now, correct? Like, for example, the EPA and their regulations are bypassing Congress.
Yeah, and that's where we get into, and I don't want to get into, this could take forever, but basically we're supposed to be, a nation of laws, and we pass those laws through a legislative process that goes through elected officials, people that we elect to represent us. That is the way the American system is set up. Anything beyond that is the antithesis of the American system. When you have these councils or these agencies that are passing regulations down to the people that can be be enforced by force, by the way, then you've entered into the realm of administrative law. Therefore, guess what? The people, we don't have anyone to hold accountable now.
Right. Because
you have this administrative law that's passed down by individuals or groups of individuals that aren't elected by the people.
Right.
And that's, luckily one thing, and here in Oklahoma, we realize that. And this last session, and he happens to be, and this is just worked out like this isn't plugged, but Representative George Fott got a bill passed that says, look, all of these independent agencies out there, they can't pass a regulation that increases a fee or a tax without us voting on this. In other words, they just can't fit. Used to, the way it worked was if they passed it and the Oklahoma legislature didn't act on it, it was automatic. Now the legislature has to look at it.
Right.
So that's a step in the right direction. When we allow EPA, we allow DHS, when going down through TSA and the Transportation Security Agencies going around groping, law-abiding citizens of this country I don't care how, but that's my opinion. By golly, they're groping people, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
They're looking at your naked body when they're sending you through these millimeter wave machines. You know, who do we have to hold accountable?
Right.
A guy that's appointed by the executive branch. That's about as close as you're going to get. So this whole system, what we see occurring in America today, is not our system of government. People want to blame our system. I agree 100%, but guess what? That's not the intent and purpose of our founding, what you see today.
Right. Well, Howard, we're running short on time.
Yeah.
How do we get it back? You mentioned George Fought and what he's done locally or statewide. We need something like that federally, I would say, right?
Larry, again, I'm not going to pull any punches here. I think that at the federal level, we're not going to get it back. I think it's that far gone.
Wow. The
tentacles, boy, this sounds tinfoil hattish, but the tentacles of tyranny. I just now came up with that.
Well, there you go.
Look,
you better patent it because I'll get it.
The tentacles of tyranny are all around us. Literally, they are choking our freedom and our liberties to death right now, and most of that comes from the federal level. It is going to take states now. States are going to have to, state legislators are going to have to put themselves in between the federal government and the state and the citizens of the state. Wow. That is the purpose of a state legislature. Wow. I want them to place themselves between the federal government and me and say, no, you are not going to do this. You are no longer allowed to do this.
Wow. Well, Howard, gee, we're going to have to do this again real soon. We're going to get in this. Thank you so much for